Hello, it's Gem Games here once again and welcome to this new Unreal Engine 5 tutorial. In this video we are going to add a touch input system to our Endless Runner game, so we can actually turn the game to a mobile game if we want. So yeah, let's get started. So first we want to go to the edit and to the project settings. Here on the project settings we want to search for a mouse. And we have to set the use mouse for touch to true. Otherwise we cannot test this on our PC. Now we can close the project settings. Next we want to go to our endless controller and we want to open it. And here we want to open full blueprint editor. Okay. And let's delete event tick and let's only leave the event begin play here. Now what we have to do is we have to get a reference to our player. So let's get player character, and from here let's cast to third person character and let's connect it from the begin play. Now let's promote this to a variable and let's rename this variable to be player ref. Okay, the next thing that we have to do is we want to get the reference to our game mode. So right click and let's get a get game mode. And from here, from the game mode, we have to cast to GM Endless Runner. Let's connect it to here. Now let's also promote this to a variable. And let's rename this to game mode ref. Simple as that. The next thing is we actually have to create the touch controls. So let's leave some space. Let's right click and let's search for a touch. Let's scroll up until we find the... Okay, sorry. Let's scroll... here. Under the touch input, you can see the thing that only says touch. Let's click that. Now you have this input touch. So the next thing that we have to do is we actually want to split this location. And then we want to get the X. We want to make vector 2D. Let's put it around here. And let's get also the Y. So we're changing the vector, basically the X, Y, Z to only X, Y. Now let's promote this to a variable and let's connect from the pressed. Let's leave it around here. Let's rename this to be touch start location. Now here under the category, let's rename this category to be touch or touch input or whatever. Now what we want to do is we also want to promote this to a variable again under here. And let's get from the moved like this. So when we press the screen, we will promote it to a variable, we will get the start location, and when we move it, we will set it to this variable, which will be called touch move, touch current location. I think that's better. And let's also put that on the same touch category. Okay, now one more thing, let's create one more variable. This will be called touch active. And let's also put it to the touch category. And now we want to set it here where we set touch start location, and we want to set it to true. Okay, now we want to also set it here, and we want to, from the released, we want to set it to false. And if we want to make this more clear, let's move this to here, and let's maybe add a reroute here. So now you can see pressed is setting it to active, and released it is setting it to false. So the next thing that we have to do is we have to leave some space and add a branch here. So B and left click. Let's get from this bottom one, from the moved. Now what we want to check is if our touch is active. And I left this much space here because we will add one thing here later. But now let's do it this way. Touch active. if it is active, we can continue, and we have to actually create a sequence. So S and left click. Let's add 2 more pins, so we have in total 4. So 0, 1, 2, 3. And now what we have to do is let's add a branch, connect from the 10, 0. And let's leave even more space. Now here, what we want to do is we want to get our touch start location, and we want to minus from it. So subtract. Let's get the touch current location. Let's also subtract. Let's subtract that from the start location. Now let's split this pin. Now we want to get the X value. So start location minus current location, X value, and we want to check if it's greater. Let's move this even further. Greater than, let's promote this bottom pin to a variable. And this we want to call touch movement threshold. Is it written that way? I think. Okay. Let's move these to. Oh, why cannot I put it to the touch category? Oh, I don't know what I was doing. Okay. Now also let's compile, and let's change the default value to be like 10. This is the amount of pixels that you have to move the mouse to activate the input, basically. So now we're checking if our start location minus current location X is greater than this. What that means is, let's actually print a string here. This one, let's first set the touch active to false. Okay, and now let's print the string, and let's call this left. So now when we swipe left, we will say left. So you can see that everything works correctly. Now let's copy and paste this 4 times, of course, like this. 4 times, yeah. Let's connect 10, 1 to the next one. Let's add a reroute here, then 2 to here, and let's add a reroute again. Okay, that's not matching. Now it's better. And on the third, let's move it to here, like this. Now, I think I actually left too little space here. So I will move this a little bit further down. So 1, 2, 1, 2, and actually 3, because that was not the same distance away. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now I think they are better. So the next one is actually right. So what we have to do here, we have to get this touch movement threshold, and we want to multiply this by -1. So we are turning it to a negative value. And then we want to check if our X is less than that threshold as negative. Okay. Let's connect it here. And if it is, we want to call right. Yes. And here on the third one, what we have to do is we have to just cut this link and connect the Y to here. We're checking if the Y is greater than the movement threshold, and this will be, of course, be called up. Now under here, we have to do the same thing as here. So let's move the touch movement threshold a little bit further, and let's subtract. Let's multiply it by -1, so we're getting a negative value. Now we want to check from the Y if it's less than this as negative. Okay, and this will be called down. Okay, so left, right, up, down. And how this works is because the start location, if it would be, let's say, 10, and then we move our mouse or our screen finger, and it would be in like 25, then this will check if the this minus this, which is in this case 15, is greater than the threshold, which is 10. And all these are the same thing, but with different directions, basically. Okay. Now, when we compile, save, and play, we should see here when we swipe up, we have to click and swipe up, left, down, right, right, left, up, down. You can see everything is working, but we don't want it to work on the main menu. We want it only to work on the game. So how we can do that is by going back here, and here we have this touch active. Let's move this a little bit further. Actually, let's not move it a little bit further. Let's actually get our game mode ref here, and let's get game started variable. So we're checking if our game is started and our touch is active. So end boolean. If these both are true, we can continue. Okay, and now when I do this, you cannot see it anymore, but when I play, up, down, left, right. Yeah. Now, how we can connect those to the controls? Let's go to our PP third person character. Let's open it. And here on the event graph, when this starts working, now we can find our okay, how does this? Yes, okay. So input action left here, for example. Let's move the right a little bit further down so we can get a little more space here. Input action left. Let's create a custom event up here, right above it. And let's call this swipe left. Now we can just connect this to here. Let's copy the node. Let's paste it to the input action right. Let's connect it to here. Let's call this swipe right, of course. Here on the input action jump, let's paste the node, connect there. And let's call this swipe up. Okay. And our down is here, input action down. Let's paste here and let's call this swipe down. Not one, down, like this. Let's connect it to here. Now compile, save, and let's go back to the controller. Now here, after all these things, after you have checked that everything works and they are like working correctly, so left is saying left and right is saying right and so on, you can delete these print strings. Now you want to get the play ref, and you want to first call the swipe left. Let's call it from here, from the first one. Okay, I will copy and paste this play ref here on all these. So, and actually move this like that, yeah. And from the next play ref, let's call the swipe right. And from the third, let's call the swipe up. And from the fourth, let's call the swipe down. Now it should work. So let's compile. Let's actually save all. Let's go to third person map and let's play. Yeah, let's start playing. And you can see when I swipe right, left, left, right, up, down, right. Okay. And one thing that I noticed is when we swipe like up and right, you can do both, like two actions at the same time. And we don't want that. And I don't think this is too accurate like right now. So how we can make it a lot better is let's go to the endless controller and let's change the touch movement threshold to something bigger like 20. You can play with this value to make it work however you want. But with 20, I think it should work pretty nicely. So now we can still do that, but it is like working a lot better. So yeah, we might adjust this later on the series, but for now, this is working like it's supposed to work. So yeah, I actually think that was all for this video. If you like what you saw, please click the like button and subscribe for more. And yeah, hope you have a great day and see you on the next one. Bye.